Hello there my friends who listen to Ebird Online, and I'm back with another review. And finally, at the end of a long season, we come to the part where all our questions are answered. Every little thing we've wondered about all season is clarified, and any little mysteries are all tied up neatly. But guys, since none of the above has happened, I'm going to have to cover my people. So I'm going to review the character of both parties in any given relationship, and I'll give my predictions for the future. I'll try and stay positive. Please be cognizant of the fact that I said try and not will. So without further ado, I give you the first of our couples, Steven and Alina. Just before we begin, please make Ebird a happy Ebird by smashing that like button and clicking on that big red button marked subscribe. Call it an early Christmas present. Thanks guys. And so without further ado, I give you Steven and Alina. And so like I said earlier, this tell-all was more filler than fact, but Steven really did stand out as one of the most manipulative and malevolent characters this season. In what's ultimately an extremely competitive field, Steven really is one of the biggest nutjobs ever to have appeared on 90 Day Fiance, and I don't say that lightly. And the very first thing that Steven said was of course an indication of what a rude little cretin he was going to be. So in the green room he was sitting there and then he decided to make the comment that Kenny looks much older in real life than he does on film. Guys, who says that? That comment said to either a menopausal woman or a gay man is beyond an insult. It's tantamount to slander or defamation. It's almost certainly a suable offence. But what's ultimately hilarious is Steven's lack of self-awareness. Steven, Kenny's far better looking than you and is far better looking than you'll ever be. And I know some of you guys might be sitting there saying, well, it's a matter of opinion. No, I actually believe this to be objectively true. I genuinely don't believe that you'll find a person on planet Earth who holds an alternate view. During the introductions, Steven said to Evelin, "This is the most modest I've ever seen you dressed." What? Who does he think he is? Guys, he's so disrespectful I can scarcely catch my breath. And so Sean decides to start questioning Steven, and Alina's watching by video from Russia. Apparently she couldn't get a visa. Seems to me someone at the consulate is looking out for her best interest. And so Sean asks, "Steven, has anything happened since you last saw Alina?" And Steven then speaks to Alina in Russian. It's a yes or no question. Has anything else happened? Yes or no? What do you think, guilt-wise, speaking in another language makes you look like? Guys, that's how underdeveloped Steven's brain is. And so Alina says you may as well just tell them, be a man. He knows not how to be a man. He's barely a boy. And I'm not going to lie, when I look at Steven I think to myself, is he transitioning backwards? I kind of feel like he might be. And listening to Steven begin to gabble on, my mind started to drift. And I thought when the Mormon gods were giving out brains, I don't think Steven was at the back of the queue. I think he didn't join the queue. Because here's what he said. Sean, do you think you can ask somebody else some questions first? What? Sean very quickly reminded him that it's a couple's tell-all, so you must tell all. And then finally, he laughed flippantly and said, yeah, I've been talking to other women. In fact, 9 other women. Glad to see you're taking it so seriously. He really is a dangerous buffoon. Why are you laughing? You're live on TV. You're supposed to at least be contrite. Or at least fake some contrition. And he starts wandering round this story. And he said, all these girls reached out to me. And I started interacting with them over the internet. Really? Are you sure, Steven? They reached out to you? Are there braille dick pics now? But then Kenny interjected and said, Steven, I told you before we even started this season on FaceTime, women were going to come for you and they're going to send you boobs and all the rest of it, and you need to be very careful. And Alina said she'd found out about it because all of these girls had messaged her and let her know, and then I worked out what it was. When girls realise that you're a bit of a fuckabout, and I guess they're kind of bored and devoid of things to do, they send you nudes or boob pics or whatever. And they try and entice you to send dick pics so they can expose you on the internet. I feel sorry for these women in a sense. It's quite a disturbing pastime. But Steven fell right into the trap. Because Sean asked him, well, what did you send to them? And he said, well, I didn't send any dick pics, but I sent pictures with my tongue out. My tongue's really, really long, and I stuck it out to the side and said, too bad I don't know what to do with it. Oh my God, far too much information. Why do you have to tell people these things? Steven, you're weird. You're nothing short of weird. And Alina's sitting there in what I can only describe as quite a docile manner, as she usually does. And Steven said, yeah, some of the people that contacted me sent me pictures of their boobs. And Kenny said, yeah, I've even got sent pictures of boobs. Really, Kenny? Was it from Colt? I'll bet it was. He has got a pair of double Ds. And then Steven said, it's my fault for responding. Steven, it's your fault for breathing. He said, I've got a lot of sexual energy and there's a lot of repression going on. I can't contain my urges. And I've told this already to Alina, and I've told her that I'd like a threesome. And at this point, Armando had heard enough. He busted in and said, people don't know this about me, but I was brought up a Mormon. Really? You're right, we didn't know. And he said, I don't like the fact that you're pushing all of this religion and then you're going against it by doing all these things with other girls. And then Corey popped up as well and said, I too was brought up in the church of LDS. And although I haven't been perfect, no, you haven't, have you, Corey? I haven't used my religion to defend my actions. And guys, we'll come to this a little bit later because I'm not sure the religion thing, even though it's quite bad, I'm not sure it's a defining factor in this story for me. But then, guys, the funniest thing of all time happened. Sean asked him what he had to say for himself. And he said, well, one time Nelson Mandela was asked if he was a saint. And he responded thus, I'm not a saint unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying. Really, Stephen? Are you comparing yourself or your deeds to that of Nelson Mandela? This really is too much. But guys, I've always thought that at some point the Ebird would be on an international platform quoting the words of Nelson Mandela, but I never ever thought it would unfortunately be in this context. Oh Mum, I hope you're proud of me. Stephen, you really are something. And then we're treated to a never seen before clip, and it's Stephen going to meet with his ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, for some relationship advice. And he said, I really need some advice from you because I don't want to make the same mistake. But guys, Vanessa was more than ready for Stephen. And she told him, you already did make the same mistake. Just the other day, you commented on a bikini pic of mine. And then you said you wanted to meet up with me in private. And then she said, I'm not your teacher on the path to manhood. And I would prefer it if this was the last time we'd ever speak. Oh, Stephen, that didn't go so well now, did it? But I was kind of interested in one thing. And that's the fact that she said, you commented on my bikini pic. Vanessa, I'm just throwing it out there. If you put a picture of yourself on your Insta of you in a bikini, what were you expecting? Wow, you look hot comments. Or saggy tits, or I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole. What were you expecting the comments to be? They'd only ever be positive now, wouldn't they? But I do kind of take your point because I guess he didn't have to comment. But thankfully Vanessa's taking matters into her own hands. And she's told Stephen now, for once and for all, I'd prefer it if this was the last time we ever spoke. Oh, but what's this? Looks like old girl's changed her mind. Because here she is, sitting on the tell-all sofa. It seems that she was unable to resist the lure of the silver screen. And Sean began by asking her, what first attracted you to Stephen? Now this, I'd like to know. Good question, Sean. And Vanessa replied that she was having a crisis of faith. Oh, really? I'm assuming in all humanity. That must surely be the only way that Stephen with a V could get her come on through. And then Vanessa told us a tale of a 3 to 4 month relationship, during which Stephen went on a trip to Russia. And while he was there, he slept with 3 different girls. The camera panned to Alina, and she looked faint and shocked. Stop acting, Alina. You know what kind of dog you're married to. And then Vanessa said, Alina, don't do this to yourself. You're young and I know you've gotten married, but Stephen will never change. And then Vanessa said, why is he asking you to have a threesome? That's just shocking to me. But Alina said, I'm not ready to give up just yet. And guys, I very much have the feeling that there's an indeterminable amount of another goes left for Stephen in Alina. I just get that feeling. And so then Ariela popped up. And she said, you know, I don't think he's going to change, Alina. And Stephen said, you've just abandoned your husband. And Ariela said, no, I have not. I'm fully invested with my husband. Really, Ariela? I think you'll find he's invested in you. He's invested time and good looks. And he's hoping that his stocks will mature and churn out cold, hard cash. But Ariela had some smoke for his ass. And she said, in response to him saying, I've made mistakes. She said 9 mistakes with 9 different women. And he said yes over 2 days. And then she said no, because you slept with 3 women behind Vanessa's back. And she said, in fact, Stephen, stop, because I can't take the bullshit. And for once I find this to be entirely true from Ariela, because she's so brimming with bullshit herself. She doesn't have any room for anybody else's. And then Alina said, this chance is his last chance. And Sean said, we wish you guys the best. I certainly don't. Don't speak on behalf of me, Sean. So what does the Ebird make to all of this? Well, my very first thought is that Steven with a V knows exactly what he's doing. He knows he's cheating and he literally doesn't care. I think the only thing he considers is, how can I get out of this as he's doing it? And he attempts to create plausible deniability with his every action. For what it's worth, I do acknowledge that he's only 25, he's quite a young man. I think that he shouldn't bother to get married. He should forget the LDS church. They're obviously too chaste for a man such as himself. And he should just play the field and just be honest with girls. But of course he can't do that because he's an unrepentant sociopath. But what really grinds my gears about Steven is the fact that he tries to give a child out past bedtime vibes, when really he's extremely manipulative and narcissistic. And my second thought is that Alina's far too young of mind to make the decisions she's making. She's converting to a whole new religion. She's now married to Steven. It's a shame that her mum can't get through to her and, kind of tell her to just date him maybe for a couple of years before she makes the decision. But I've got to say, she's seen enough so far for her to conclude, well, he's not the greatest. Maybe I should slow my roll, but she hasn't. And I just think, unfortunately, that's the youth at play. And also, I was thinking about what Kenny said, that he called him and gave him the good news about social media and girls trying to come on to him before the season started, and he still fell foul of it all. But then I suddenly thought, oh my God, there's another lie at play. He told us that Alina had deleted most of his social media, and what she hadn't deleted, she had passwords for. And he said, what more can I do? Well then, Steven, question, how did these girls get hold of you? Have you perchance got a secret Instagram or a secret Facebook? I'll bet you have. And if anyone's got any theories on this, how these girls got hold of him, please let me know. But I think the main thing I wanted to talk about is the LDS or the Mormon church. And people keep saying, well, it's really bad because you're asking Alina to live or Alina to do things which you're not prepared to do yourself or which you're not doing yourself, the covenants of the church. But I don't think it really makes that much difference at all. It's pretty much the same to me as any guy that sleeps around but tells his partner, no, you mustn't do the same. You must keep yourself nice and chaste. All those guys that say, well, it's biology, it's in our genes, we're supposed to be procreating. I really don't think that there's that much difference. I really don't. Very, very often, people have different standards of what they do in relationships compared to the other person or what they allow the other person to do. And so I don't see this as being any worse as this whole LDS church thing. I think the salient point is you've got a human being that's saying to another human being, do as I say and not as I do. And to me, therein lies the problem. But the final thing I want to talk about is that Steven has got at least one of his genes missing. He appears to feel no shame about anything at all. And I can tell this from the following things. When you hear his laugh, the casual way he tells us about his long tongue, his hair, the cut, the style and the length. And finally, the song that he sang when he proposed to Alina. And the big problem for Alina is, if you're with somebody with no shame, there's nothing they won't do and there's nothing they won't say. And their lack of shame is then foisted onto you in a second-hand manner. I don't think for a second that Alina's going to be able to stand a lifetime of this lack of shame from Steven. We'll see, but I'm doubting it. So guys, let me know what you think about this couple. I think this couple's a bust. I think in about 3 years' time, they'll be finished. I have seen recent pictures of them, I think, in Greece, so they are definitely still together at the moment. But I just don't think it's going to last long term. So guys, please let me know what you think in comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.